It's the SGG podcast. Welcome. Say hello, podcasters, and introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Els Tahura.
Hey, I'm Chad Jetner.
Hello, I'm Peter Lawrence.
And I'm Kyle Bacher, and today we're going to talk about the wisdom of Ted Lasso. And we'll try to apply that to, I guess, the stuff we do for a living.
The business wisdom, not just the plain old
wisdom. Yeah, not just the coaching, but more like the business side. We're gonna avoid spoilers just because of the format. We're gonna be focusing on the nuggets. But if a few leak out, so be it. We're not going to deliberately try to spoil it for you, though, if you haven't seen the show. Peter has not seen the show, but does not care if we spoil it.
I did watch 3 minutes of the dartboard video, right?
Okay.
About 3 minutes ago. So I'm there.
You're all
That's
primed.
really all we need to talk. Yeah. That's really all we need to talk about.
So I have a Walt Whitman quote in my back pocket if I need it for later, but that's it.
Awesome.
I think, Kyle, the one thing, I mean, folks familiar with the show should know that Ted Lasso exists in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, that's just a given, right? So outside of that, there won't be any major spoilers.
Right. That makes it so much better for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chad, you were the one that I think raised this topic. So what was it about Ted Lasso that you wanted to talk more about how that might apply to your and our jobs? Actually,
so I didn't start watching Ted until like probably 6 months ago, right? It existed on Apple TV and it was just kind of out there. Nobody was really talking about it. And then I watched an episode and I watched another one and I realized like how much like kind of his philosophy overlaps with, you know, things that we brought up. Like one of the things that we do when I start a project is we come up with team norms, right? And they're always, you know, silly little, sometimes pithy little things like, you know, be cool. That's always my number one team norm. Just be cool, right? If you don't know what that means, I'm sure there's a team for you out there somewhere. But be cool, compliment each other. And then a couple little things about specific to development work. Stay on top of your code review or stay on top of pull requests and blah, blah, blah. Fix your broken builds. But all of those, the ones that aren't specific to development, hardcore development work day to day, kind of are Ted Lassoisms to a degree, right? Like, I think complimenting people constantly is something that he does all the time in the show. And so I tossed the idea out there, not knowing, I probably should have assumed that there's already probably a dozen articles and blog posts and discussions about how to be like Ted Lasso in your day-to-day life. But still, I think something specific to, you know, tech work, consulting, there could be, you know, some additional nuggets to be gained there. So that's why.
Yeah, there's a lot of what he says and how he approaches things and people, but there's also a lot of like examples with how he behaves and how he treats people. And then there's kind of themes throughout the show that kind of emerge. But let's go through some of the kind of the more popular nuggets first.
Yeah. Let's pick one.
Bits of wisdom. So I think the one that stands out the most is be a goldfish. I think that's one that sticks in people's memory, but only for 10 seconds.
I was just gonna say.
So Peter,
that one just sticks in my craw right away. But you know,
yeah,
I understand the concept.
So something bad happens something gets in somebody's craw.
Yep.
Ted says, "Do you know what the happiest animal on earth is? It's a goldfish. Do you know why? It's got a 10-second memory. Be a goldfish, Sam."
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, dwelling on anything, good or bad, for your job, I think is like, oh, remember that time 10 years ago when we won the state championship and of programming, and we were so cool, and you know,
even dwelling on good stuff.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, you can't. I mean, they say it, you can't live in the past, and you shouldn't. I mean, 10 seconds is a really short amount of time, and if you burn your hand on the stove, that's going to be problematic. But you know, having that short, letting things go, letting things not get to you, being happy where you are, because you know you came to that workplace or that function, whatever we're talking about, for a reason, right? You're happy to be there. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be podcasting. I'm happy to be working at STG. I've been doing it for a really long time, and so yeah, I don't try to dwell on the bad things.
Don't sweat the small stuff.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Oh, you know, if you think about all the small stuff that you sweated even last year or the year before that, like pretend that COVID never happened. All the small stuff that you were sweating at that time pretty much got flushed out of your system, you know, 20 months ago, when all sorts of crazy things were happening and there was so much up in the air. And will I have a job? And will the universe exist in a year, and all of that? So
yeah, 2020 was kind of the overriding global distraction.
Yes. Here's an eraser for everything before now. We're just going to erase that off of there. We're going to create some new things. We're still going to remember what the old times were like, but we're not going to dwell on them.
You know, not living in the past, and not holding grudges. Like every grudge you hold against somebody is like carrying around an extra like weight. Like an extra 5-pound weight for every one of them, and you're the one holding on to them.
Right.
Yes, and then you're like complaining about it. You know, why is this stuff so heavy? And it's like, why don't you let go of it?
Yeah, I have like two things. I mean, first, I absolutely, Peter, want to see your trophy from the state programming championships.
Well, you know, it's more of a certificate, but you know.
Ooh, even better.
Just
hopefully
kidding.
With gold embossing.
Oh, I wish.
But I think the other thing that goes along with it is, yes, it's absolutely important to not dwell on things, to not hold grudges if you can, because that helps give you a much more even keel. I think what's also involved in that idea of who's the happiest animal, the goldfish, at least to me, is also if there are issues, address them immediately, as opposed to, you know, because there are times when, you know, something like the internet service provider was supposed to come fix something with my wiring, and they said they gave me a window from 10 to 2, and then they showed up at 6 p.m. and like, yeah, it'll be fine. I don't need to stress out about it. But if there's something like, you know, I'm at work, I'm getting failure emails over and over and over. Okay, if I actually address the failure sooner, I can be much more goldfish-like, as opposed to just watching this pile of errors come up, you know, every hour.
And there's another one. And there's another one. They keep coming.
So I think there's something to not hiding from problems too. At least I personally kind of pull from that goldfish idea as well.
I have a list of like, it's kind of like my consulting code, like, you know, that I put together over the years. And one of the things that's high on that list is always tell on yourself first.
Yeah.
You know, you want to own up right away, and you want to be the first side of the story, because then when you hear the other side of the story, you're going to have some context and a frame of reference and all that stuff. And, you know, I'm a really forgiving person, for the most part. Little stuff, like if it's uneven, like my inner child screams because I'm really close in age to my older brother and everything had to be the same. But major stuff I will let go and I will forgive people for because they're human. And it's like other people are pretty much the same way. Most people are kind of forgiving and stuff. So if you own up to things, and usually come with a solution or a plan.
That helps too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then you're going to be okay.
But
because you're not going to get through this life without screwing up and having to own up to something. Yeah.
But being the first one to say it, I think goes toward credibility, goes towards honesty, goes towards so many of the key values that you want in somebody that's working with you. It's not like blame others or find a scapegoat, or none of those things are highly prized in the business world.
No.
Or anything like
ownership,
that.
Though, taking ownership of things and saying, what can I do? I think we've digressed from the goldfish concept.
Well, and if everybody, I was just going to say, if everybody has the goldfish short-term memory, they're going to be like, I remember good things about Kyle. I don't remember why. I don't remember what he did, but a while ago he did something good, even though it was kind of bad, but it was good. And so So
you've seen my work, my body of work.
But, so those things are not going to be remembered. They're not going to be posterized and, put on a don't ever do this list or anything like that. Right. It's just going to be like, well, you made a mistake. We fixed it. We moved on, and tomorrow's another day.
Yeah. We're ready for our next mistake.
Yeah. There's going to be another one coming right around the corner.
When I look back at the projects that I've done that I'm most proud of, it's the ones that went bad that I recovered from.
Right.
That were a struggle. For some reason, it was the hardest ones that I got through and delivered on and made it right,
Yep.
In the end, stuck with it. So sticking with it,
sticky wicket.
It's a good segue into the next concept, which is quitting versus letting go. So Ted's talking to his wife, who's kind of, I guess, here's a spoiler, that's leaving him. Things aren't working out. And she says, you're not quitting, you're letting go. Like, it's over. Like, the deed is done. So at this point, it's just letting go. It's just moving on. And you're not quitting.
Not a failure.
Yeah. I think that's, like, even on a small scale, like when you've got a problem to solve, especially if you're a configurer, using a platform, trying to meet some requirement and get the thing to do something that it doesn't do. Like, you'll hit a wall.
Right.
And say, look, you want this out of the system. It's not going to give it to you. Well, I can sit and beat my head against the thing and look at all the screens and menu options and configuration, all that stuff all day long. If it doesn't do it, it doesn't do it. So it's like, you need to stop. It doesn't mean you've quit. It means you've realized that it's time to let go. And then change platforms.
Yeah, I was wondering how you were going to tie that up, Kyle, because
so
the analogies get a little convoluted when we try to shove, but you landed it well.
I had that same experience this week. I was working on a technical issue, and I was struggling mightily to get it to work the way that I wanted it to, but it doesn't work that way. So we will make adjustments and go around that particular problem because it does not work. It's never going to work that way. That's just not built into the system that I'm working on. And so we have to do something different, and that's okay. But now we know that we can't count on that particular thing, right?
What was the Edison quote? Now I know 1,000 different ways not to make a light bulb, or
That's
something
right.
like that.
I know 10,000 ways not to make a light bulb.
Which is why it's obviously in retrospect, but why it's worth having terrible jobs. Because you get such a. I was just talking to Jana, our head of people at SDG earlier this week, and one of the things that she shared that I loved was you never learn as much about managing as you do from a bad manager.
Oh yeah, that's just gold.
Yeah, and so the ability to say like, this is not a job I'm going to stay in. I have to go, and so I'll let it go. That's not me failing at the job. That's not anything, but there is still something good to extract from that helps underscore that it wasn't, overall a huge failure. Like there's still nuggets to pull from that experience so that you can move forward.
I found too that as I gained more experience over the years, I recognized like when it was time to let go a lot sooner.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And got used to saying that it was okay to say no. It doesn't work that way. We have to work the way it works, or we can't do it.
Or choose a different platform, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
and that's sometimes that's the answer or it's custom. We're going to have to bring in a bigger gun.
Yep.
Yeah. So, Chad, do you have a favorite that we haven't covered?
Oh gosh, I've got a lot of favorites, but
Perfect.
I think one of the
that's not how favorites work, Chad.
yes, it is. Have 3 kids.
Top 100 of favorites.
You're all my favorite. One of the things that I see in the show, and I've tried to do myself, is like just his ability to recognize people struggling, right? And recognize different personalities and egos and everything else, and just the way that it gets handled, right? Like there's one point where Jamie Tart, you all know who Jamie Tart is, right? Jamie Tart's like their all-star. I'm not a
He's the
soccer
hot
guy.
shot.
Yeah, he's
all-star
the hot
forward.
shot. Super, super good. And Jamie Tart says something like, "Coach, I'm me. Why would I ever want to be anything else?" And Lasso says, he says, I don't think you understand how psychologically healthy that is, right? So just directly addressing like the dude's biggest ego and then kind of steering it instead of trying to change it is one of the things that he does super well. And then, with everybody on that show, like it's the way that he interacts with everybody that he's managing, that he's dealing with is so perfect, right? Finding an in with Rebecca, with the biscuits, finding a way to make Nate, the former equipment manager, feel valued, and then screwing it up at the end. Spoiler alert, sorry. Letting his wife go because he knew she wasn't going to be happy, and since it existed in the Marvel universe, here's a spoiler, she left him for Tony Stark. Didn't expect that cameo, but all of that stuff, like just recognizing people's situations and dealing with them in a way that that is applicable and helpful for each individual person, right? Like he's not making
something to strive for in real life, right? Like,
yeah.
And it's a little easier in a TV show where you can write their reactions to what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, the way that he deals with Roy Kent, I mean, yes, it's all scripted, but also it is, incredibly valid to recognize, all right, here's Jamie Tart, here's Roy Kent, they're opposite ends of their careers, they're opposite personalities. Here's what I can do for this guy, here's what I can do for this guy. And in the end, everybody's ridiculously happy. That's
The fairy tale ending is when you get to write both sides, but that doesn't mean that the concepts are not legitimate.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah, and how
To strive for those things.
Everybody kind of has different needs. You got to treat people like individuals. You're going to have diversity, people in different parts of their careers and different styles and personality types, and you get this mix, this kind of unique chemistry, and
sometimes it blows up, and sometimes it works out perfectly, right?
You hit us, it's like you have these beautiful projects where the team just gelled.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, everybody knew their job and did it well, and it was just smooth sailing. And you come out the other end, and it seems like it took a week, and it's like it was way too fast. You're like, oh, it's over, and then that's rare, so rare that you get a project like that. But
what was his quote about ghosts?
Do you believe in ghosts? I think you said, yes, I believe in ghosts. But more importantly, I believe they need to believe in themselves.
Yeah, I like that one too. I liked it because there's this fake quote attributed to a baseball player for the Mets named Mookie Wilson. And Mookie Wilson, he never actually said this, but it was published that he did, said that when he's in a slump, I comfort myself by saying, if I believe in dinosaurs, I've got it right in front of me, so I'm quoting it verbatim. I comfort myself by saying that if I believe in dinosaurs, then somewhere there must be some dinosaurs that believe in me. And if a dinosaur can believe in me, then I can believe in me. And then I bust out, which is absolutely hilarious. But kind of what Ted is saying as well, via Mookie, that actually just, I think it just comes down to confidence, like just having the confidence to say, I don't know, but I will, is huge, and it's kind of empowering. And
that's kind of the believe concept. He's got that believe poster.
Yeah.
And his quote was, "I believe in hope. I believe in believe." There's power to that. Believing you can get it done, believing in yourself, believing in your team, believing in your choices, things like that. I think those are all important, and that kind of ties into, knowing somewhere out there's a dinosaur that believes in me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hold on to that one for if I need a little boost at work one day. I'd be like, oh, there's a dinosaur out there that believes in me. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, I believe in you, Peter. Yeah,
that's
and
right.
I'm not I'm getting older.
You are getting older.
I might be approaching dinosaur age. Elle, is there any specific kind of Tedism or theme that stands out to you?
I'm always amused at the jokes that, like, if you want to watch a show about football, soccer that really has almost no football or soccer in it, watch Ted Lasso, because it's so much more about the communication and just lives behind the scenes or as they're prepping. And I think similar to the idea that Chad brought up, where he has this capacity to address people based on what their different needs and their different personalities are. I have always appreciated the idea that it's crucial for us to make space for other people to show their skills, to show their best selves.
Oh, absolutely.
Because that along with addressing problems based on people's personalities is really an art form of being able to recognize, hey, this is a great opportunity to spotlight this person or this group.
Yeah.
And in work and life, you know, if you're on the receiving end of that, it just feels so good to be seen and recognized. And if you're able to do that for someone else, that just strengthens your relationship with that person or those people so exponentially. So that's something that's really been on my mind as I've been watching the show is, you know, how do you spotlight people? How do you give them space to shine?
In the show, that concept, you know, is make the extra pass. And so, you know, the hot shot, which was Jamie, is that
Jamie
his name? Jamie Tart. You know, that was the advice Ted gave him, is make the extra pass. And kind of the show, the whole first season kind of ended on that moment where he did that and kind of showing his growth. You know, you might have a number of developers on a team, and you might have a newer, less experienced person, and you might be tempted to like give them really easy, basic stuff to do instead of handing them a more challenging thing and then helping them get through it. You know, that's more valuable. Their learning is going to be valuable to the team. And, you know, the more experienced people, those easy tasks, they'll just knock them out of the park like quickly, you know. So I think spreading that around, giving people credit and recognition when they've, you know, had the best idea in the room. Making space for others to flourish.
Yeah, because like one of the things that I really liked about the first season was when Jamie, Hotshot, and Roy, I'll say former Hotshot, but captain of the team, are just clashing. And Ted absolutely, if he wanted to, could have stepped in and said, yes, I'm gonna make sure that you two get along. I'm gonna like hold your hands this whole time. But he has enough awareness to restrain himself from doing that and basically gives the floor to Roy, just basically like, you're the captain, you're the mature one here. This is a chance for you to be mature and to learn how to help mentor and to a degree also castigate the newer folks, but just be a teacher. And that helped Roy get more respect. That helped him kind of tap into skills he didn't, I think, know he had. And it was just wonderful.
He actually says in one of the episodes, it's not, success isn't about wins and losses. It's about helping young fellas be the best versions of themselves on and off the field. And then what was the other thing you said, Kyle, about doing something uncomfortable, right? Like somebody doing a skill that they're not comfortable with. He said at one point, he says something along the lines of, it's not like, if you're taking on a challenge, it's like riding a horse. If you're comfortable while you're doing it, you're probably doing it wrong. I love that one. And God, he's got so many. I don't even know who the writers are. I know Roy Kent, the actor that plays Roy Kent, is one of the writers. And I think Sudeikis is one of the writers. And I want to just hang out in that writer's room and figure out like what is that like for you guys? Where do you come up with, like Ted's personality is always, when he meets somebody for the first time, I don't know if you noticed this, but like when he meets somebody for the first time, he's always got something that he says that makes that other person instantly realize that, oh, this is like, it kind of sums up his personality in like a sentence, like he met two people and he goes, hey, congratulations, you both just met a cool person, right? Like what is that? 5 words, right? But that's just his entire personality encapsulated in a single sentence. And now both those people know who he is. And that would be a great thing to be able to do in real life, in the real world, to be able to kind of explain yourself and introduce yourself immediately to people so that they know who you are. I kind of do this, right? Like when I meet somebody for the first time and they say, oh, nice to meet you, right? Like it's kind of stupid, but I always just usually say, yeah, I imagine it would be, right? And that's something I've done for a long time, but that's kind of like what, that's me. They know that I'm kind of a jackhole. Is that okay for the pod? Jackhole? Pulled out of that square at the last second. Jackhole.
I can't guarantee it won't get cut.
It's a Halloween traditional word. Yes.
There you go. That's exactly where I was going with that, Peter.
Jack-o'-lantern kind of thing, but
the jack holes are what you cut out of the pumpkin.
That's right.
Make a jack-o'-lantern.
Nice. That's a good save. And it is that time of the year. I think that's how, it's how you present yourself to people. And I think, like the way he does press conferences, like the first one, he kind of acknowledges that he doesn't know anything about football. So he sets the stage that, he's honest and he's going to admit it. And, he also relies on other people to fill those gaps. Like Coach Beard.
You'd think he'd have to, right?
Coach Beard knows how the game is played. And Ted knows Coach Beard. So he's got that part of his brain, there to support him. And Coach Beard kind of watches out for Ted and kind of gives Ted what he needs and holds him in check. And, so he does have that support system there, which is important to have.
Totally.
Right. Someone to call you out. Someone to check in with, hey, could you read this email before I send it? And then tell me why I shouldn't send it or what parts I should remove.
Do I have to delete the whole entire thing before I send it, or just some of these words that I've written in anger or in jest or whatever?
Right. Yes.
Can I email it to you just to have those words out of my brain, and then you can just trash it when you receive it?
Yeah.
That is I'm on I've worked with co-tech leads before, right? And initially I was like, I don't want to be a co-tech lead. That just doesn't seem like it works. I'm not a committee person, right? I'm not, this is how we do things kind of person. But it is now my preferred way to do darn near anything, right? Like actually having the Coach Beard.
Somebody to bounce ideas off of, right? Like, hey, is this dumb? Is this great? Is this the best thing you've ever heard?
Yeah. Or even getting a second read on situations, which is a thing that Beard does quite a bit, right? Like, hey, that felt strange, right? Like we were just in whatever. Is it just me? Like, am I just having a bad day, or is that just a bunch of nonsense? You know what I mean? Like, and that's one of the things that Coach Beard does super, super well. He is a living bearded rubber duck, right? That Ted can bounce things off of and get real feedback from. And that is huge, huge, huge for anybody in a leadership position, is to have a trusted, duck.
But I think that's just it, because Coach Beard is not a yes man. Like he supports Ted and will agree with him when that makes sense, but is not there to just blindly follow. So Ted has kind of made sure that, okay, I've got somebody by my side that will help, give me the other perspective if I'm not seeing it, or pull in information that I haven't received. Like, that's crucial. And it helps make Ted a better leader too, because it helps show that he knows he doesn't know everything.
Right. It's not just a rubber duck that you're talking to. It's a rubber duck that speaks back with intelligent advice on some of the things that you've said, right?
I think Chad just has better rubber ducks than we do.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. The, yes men don't get a lot of respect from the people they're saying yes to. Leaders want honest people that can stand up for their ideas and call things out, that's a good sign of a good leader is, the willingness to surround yourself with people that might be smarter than you are.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Absolutely. And even on development teams. I mean, maybe not on Chad's team, but some of the teams that I work on, some of the developers are going to be smarter than I am in certain areas or in lots of areas or maybe all areas. But I'm going to compliment them and help, provide, ancient history and things like that to help the process.
Well, and the brightest light in the room, the lead of the co-leads, the smartest person, the biggest hotshot, whatever. There's you think that's where you want to be, but there's a lot of nobility in just taking a supporting role, and I think that, good co-leads are in kind of a co-support role.
Right.
Where they're not vying for that limelight. They're not, it's like they're both willing to let that go. Otherwise, you're going to have conflict and it's going to be a disaster. But I think that's where you can make the extra pass. You can dial it back. But if you're looking to be the hot shot, that doesn't really always go well, especially if there are more competent, more experienced people in the room.
The spotlight is very bright.
Yeah.
It shows off almost all of, all of the flaws, right?
Remember seeing things in 4K for the first time and you're like, oh my gosh, what is that?
Yeah, there's some things we don't need high definition for.
No.
So one of the elephants in the room for me on Ted Lasso is the creation of Ted Lasso, the show itself, right? Is it true that it came from a commercial and then became a show?
Yeah. I think NBC was airing the World Cup, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe NBC got rights to some of the Premier League. There you go.
Yep.
And then they got Sudeikis and Coach Beard to just star in these. I think it was like some of those commercials were like 7 or 8 minutes long. They were little featurettes that they bundled in there, and that was. I didn't look it up, but that was years ago, like 5-6 years ago that happened, maybe even longer. But it's always stuck in his craw, and they got it out into a real show, and thank God they did, because holy smokes, it's
it worked out way better than the show based on the Geico cavemen.
Yes.
That's not. It's a special thing when you can go from commercial to show. It's not something that.
So to take a small idea and to enhance it and make it larger and bigger in sort of what would tie into business, right? I have this little idea. I'm going to go work on it. Oh, it works as the little idea. Sometimes it works as the beginnings of a big idea that started as a little idea. And other times it maybe just was a little idea that couldn't.
Yeah. I have never seen any of those commercials. I'm going to have to try to find them.
Yeah, they're easy to find. It's not, but
they're not hiding it.
Well, you know what? I remember seeing those at the time, and the difference is they weren't memorable. It didn't stick in my head what was going on, because it was the original premise was just, I'm an American football coach from Kansas, and now I'm going to coach Premier League soccer, right? It wasn't. Right. I am a ridiculously nice guy that does kind of ridiculous things for people in my orbit.
Manic pixie dream coach.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Do you think he started
mispronounced?
Did he start out as the nicest guy in the room and stay that way? Or did he become the nicest guy in the room as a way to sort of take down boundaries and walls that other people have put up in his path?
I think what you're talking about right now, Peter, is a prequel, and we know anything about prequels, it's that they're never.
Yeah, they're always.
So let's
excellent.
not find out. Let's not find out.
Okay.
I left your imagination.
I don't need a Ted Lasso.
Thinking more of a little bit of business twist, like, oh, being a nice person at work is not a bad thing to do.
Right.
Being a jackhole, I think, as we've discovered, is the part taken out of the pumpkin. You cannot be that constantly, or you will rot like a pumpkin, right? Like,
I tell you, if you come in hot to stuff, it rarely goes well for you, especially in Minnesota.
Yeah.
We
read
will
the room
chew you up.
Yes.
Yeah, you'll get all the room in the world to fail, and they will let you. And you'll get that older person with tons of experience and just kind of giving them that look, like, yeah, this is that moment before the fall. This is
so if you listen to Coach Beard and did the opposite of everything that he said, that would be sort of what we're talking about there, where you're just going to come in hot and fail. You're doing it your way, no matter what. You're not listening to anyone. I'm just going to take over and fail.
Yeah, that's when it's helpful to have somebody pull you aside and say, hey. And I appreciate all those times when, in retrospect, not at the time, but times I was pulled aside and kind of called out and said, yeah, you need to dial it back.
They can
we're not
suck
here
in the
for
moment.
Your stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
We're here to get the job done.
What? Wait.
I appreciate the jokes. Yeah. Or my favorite thing that anybody ever said to me was, hey, this class is really important to me, and it's a serious topic. Can you not be you just for an hour?
Wow.
I'm like, yeah, I get it. So I just kind of kept my mouth shut and took the class, and it was like a CPR safety thing. And he was our safety officer. He was our Homer Simpson. Yeah.
Oh, so you were not on the teacher side. You were on the student side, and
I was on the student side.
You were assisting a little bit too much.
Well, it's the jokes. It's the need to be funny and interrupting and, hey, look, doing the slapstick with the Recessa Annie, making jokes out of everything, that kind of stuff. I was way worse back then. I've calmed down a little bit. Yeah, but I was okay with that because it was like, he told me what he needed from me.
Yep.
And I was able to do it.
But he didn't do it in front of everyone, right?
No, that would have been bad.
That would have been bad, right? So
that's where the pulling aside thing is important.
Made the point of pulling you aside and saying,
I don't know if it's ever good to call people out in public.
It's got to feel good at the moment, but I just can't imagine it usually goes down well.
Yeah. I mean, there are times I would say when it's necessary, but those need to be chosen very carefully and
I'm guessing
done usually if you can't pull them aside, or if you've pulled them aside and you're still not seeing any change.
I think the exception is protecting the group.
Yes.
From bad information, where somebody says something and it's just wrong. They get it wrong. It doesn't work that way. That's, it's like, this is okay. And then, kind of raising your hand and going, actually, you said this, and that actually doesn't work. You have to do it this other way. If you don't think there's going to be a chance to do that outside of the room, I don't know. I've just had moments like that where I've had to correct people, because they were pumping out bad information. And
but to go back to your Recessa Annie story, I'm guessing if you had continued on with your nightclub act, that they probably would have gotten okay, we tried this on the pulling you aside, you didn't get it, so now I'm going to address you directly and say, this is important, and you need to stop, and
Right.
I'm
In
going to
the
embarrass you
moment.
right now, right?
Yeah. I totally agree with that. That would have been completely appropriate for him to go, hey, what do we talk about? Knock it off. Yeah.
Hey, comedian, this is Annie. She's dying. Let's drop the comedy.
Yeah, this is not a joking matter. This is serious stuff. And I'm like, okay. And then I would got sad. It would have taken the wind out of my sails. I would have been ashamed, but it still would have been completely appropriate for him to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
But the fact that he didn't lead off with that made
Right. No, he
so
pulled me
much
aside,
difference.
very respectful. He was very careful the way he said it, and we had a great relationship after that.
Right.
You kind of have those moments, those little struggles with people, and it kind of brings you together over time. If you get through it, you get past it.
Right.
Yeah, I think the Ted Lasso show is so, like, there's so much there, so much you can get out of it. It's like, how many TED Talks could we turn this into? Was
that a pun? Did you just do a pun?
Not intentionally.
Oh, say yes. Say yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I did a pun.
Yes.
Hilarious. I'm not a fan of puns, and I feel bad now. And thanks for calling me out, Chad.
Wow.
One of my favorite things is the intro to the show, where he sits down in a blue chair and it turns red, and then all the chairs around him start turning red. I think that's a perfect kind of image for the theme of the show, where he changes the people around him for the better. It starts out, it's the plot of the first season is kind of Major League, like the movie, like where the owner inherits the club.
Yeah, she wants to move him to Florida.
And and she wants to destroy it. That's her goal, because her ex loved it so much that and then, like, and this is, I'm spoiling it all, but winding up at the end of that kind of forgiveness moment is huge. I think you can really win people over by giving them second chances, with that forgiveness, and you strengthen the relationship. And it's like, it never hurts. Hopefully it never hurts to forgive people, and to move past stuff, and be that goldfish, and believe. I'm tying it all together now.
All right. I'm gonna
Bring it home.
Let me hold off on your tying. Where do the cookies come in? And what's the metaphor that we can take from the cookies for business?
It's
Bribery.
a ritual he establishes to stay connected to that leader, to that person. I've been on projects where I'm starved for time with some important people that need to be in the loop and make decisions and stuff like that. And it's like, meeting every 2 weeks for a half an hour isn't going to give me what I need.
Yeah.
I think he just establishes that they need to build a relationship, and he's not in charge of that situation. So through bribery.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically, if you have someone who's hell bent on hating you, you can non-confrontationally combat that by doing something really nice every day, to just, like, here's some evidence that this doesn't have to be a fight.
And luckily, the cookies were delicious, right?
Yes.
Imagine.
Yes.
Amazingly so.
Yeah. And actually,
although the actor apparently hated them.
Oh, did she really?
Yeah.
Oh, Rebecca. That stings. And actually, now every time I'm
no. What I love is she said like that's some of my best acting I've ever done is pretending
Wow.
I like those. Like, that's
Nice.
great.
I actually do that for so we're, as we slowly return to the office, we do 1 day of the week in the office these days, and I don't bake cookies. I don't bake, but I do
smoke
go.
meat.
I am doing that on Friday of next week in the STG office. So if you guys want smoked ribs, smoked pulled pork, feel free to come into the office. But I do on Wednesdays make it a point to wake up early, go from my house to Northeast Minneapolis, pick up 5 or 6 breakfast sandwiches for the team, and then drive out to the client's office, which is the direct opposite way of where I'm going. So I did like the cookie thing so much that I just literally do that nowadays because it's so simple to do, right?
Right.
I think, also you might be seen as a threat. You might be seen as, an outsider. Sometimes you need to win people over.
Yeah, maybe. I'm more optimistic. I don't think people that I encounter feel that way. I don't know that anybody feels threatened.
Well,
it's an easy way for
as
them
a
to
consultant, I've received some cold welcomes because of prior situations that didn't work out so well.
I feel like there is in our industry, there's always something hovering over us where we think, oh, this is what's going to take my job away. Whether it's automation, whether it's offshoring, whether it's consultants, there's always this existential dread that,
right.
oh my gosh, in 5 years, my job won't exist anymore. When in real life, in 5 years, the job's just going to be a slightly different thing. Right.
I never took it personally. I always thought, well, once you get to know me and we work together for a while and we're going to get stuff done.
Yeah.
My goal is to leave you in a good spot. I don't want to stay here forever. I want to get the job done and give you your money's worth.
Everything that we do, everything that we build is going to be replaced in 5 years anyway. So, let's
if we're lucky.
I was going to
say 20 years.
Unless there's a 2-digit date format in there, a 2-digit year, then it will last forever till the next century.
4 people in 9999. What they're going to do?
No, actually, it's the year 2032 is the next one.
That's the next one? Okay.
That's when, what is it? The milliseconds from the epoch.
Oh, the epoch on Linux.
It flips from, all Unix systems is no longer able to be stored as a 16-bit or 32. I forget what the specific technical causality was, but 2032 is our new Y2K. And then after that, we don't
11 years to plan. That's good.
So set your alarms for 2032.
That's right.
And be ready.
Or 2030 and start making changes so that we don't have the problem?
Well, actually, set your alarm to 2033, and if it works, then you probably didn't have the problem to begin with. You're fine.
When things break, fix them.
There you go.
All right. Well, with that, I think we'll wrap it up. That was the SDG podcast. Thanks for listening. If you want to get a hold of us, drop us an email at thepodcasters@solutiondesign.com. Until next time, say goodbye, everybody.
See ya.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.